Okay, hello, this is Tim Tarango, and I am joined here with none other than Anton Volney. Anton, I'm so excited that you're joining us. We're about 6,000 miles away, 5,000 miles away. You're in a much more exotic location than I am because it's 9 p.m. and I'm stuck in my apartment at the moment in Eastern Europe. Tell us, where are you coming from right now?
I'm currently sitting on an exotic island. I'm in the Caribbean. I'm in St. Lucia, so I'm not lying. I'm actually doing my work, my professional work in the Caribbean right now. And I'm sure I'll tell you all about it in a bit. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, life sounds rough for you over there on your exotic island. I noticed, by the way, that you're not wearing a suit and tie today.
No, I don't. I very rarely get to wear a suit and tie. I have a blog. It's kind of a throwaway blog that I do random fun things on. All the random side projects that I do, live on that blog. And it's called Succeed in Your Pajamas. And that's just because that's how I work.
So really then you've dressed up for us today by not being in pajamas? I'm
not going to lie. I totally put on a clean shirt.
That's perfect. All right, Anton. So I'm not sure exactly what you consider yourself professionally. I consider you a wordsmith. I consider you an expert at the written word. And basically to be able to take somebody that's sitting on their couch at home in a sedentary state, let's say, and call them to action and get them to take action specifically with your use of language. And we're going to talk a lot about that. And we're going to talk about how you use NLP to influence people, and how you've used NLP really for your own career in a moment. But
sure.
Go ahead.
No, keep going.
Yeah. But before we get there, you have an unusual background. So walk us through your childhood and your background growing up. Okay,
so today here I sit before you as what some people call a copywriter or a direct response copywriter. I write ads basically, but what those ads are will vary. This whole world of what advertising is very different now that the internet exists. So, not quite like Don Draper on Mad Men, but, I write ads essentially. If you had to boil it down, I help people buy stuff. But that was kind of a long, there's quite a journey to getting here. So when I can tell you that I remember back in 1997 when I was about 10, that's about when I first thought I want to run a business. I remember that. I remember reading Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and thinking about all that stuff. And, so that was always a lingering desire in my mind. And probably some of the most cherished moments I've had, let's say, with my dad is probably driving around and scheming up different ways to make money with him. And that's kind of part of the things that we used to do. By the time I got to university, I was 18. And at that point, I was going in for business administration because this whole vague thing that I had when I was younger became a little bit more solid because the counselors were forcing me to decide what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, fine. This is what I want to do. And by the time I got into school, it was actually a very solid goal. It was very intense. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm about. This is what I want to do. So I go into university, and actually, unlike most people who don't know what they want to do, I knew this is what I want to do. Okay. And within about 6 weeks, I actually stumbled onto like a franchise business, like a window cleaning franchise. That was my first business at age 18, 19. I was doing a window cleaning thing, and it was really, really bad. It was really hard. It was really hard. I'd drive around with 32-foot ladders on my old beat up 92 Protege, and I'll be driving around town. And this is in Canada, by the way. So I was in school in Canada. Right now I'm in the Caribbean. I was in Canada. That's why I literally just kind of moved here a few months ago, but I was in Canada for a long time, 8 years before I kind of came down here. So I'm driving around Canada trying to get people to clean their windows, and I'll be cold calling, knocking on door to door. It's January, there's snow, ice, slush, and I'm knocking on people's doors. And then they're opening doors to me. I'm a young kid, so they're at least a little bit more willing to know what's going on. Why are you knocking my door? It's snowing and there's snow on the ground. And I'll be like, can I clean your windows? And they're like, what are you talking about? It's winter. And I'm like, no, I need to get the business for summer, right? And they're like, come back in summer. I'm like, no, I need the business now. My business is struggling. And like, it was just this horribly difficult thing. At that point, I was like, okay, I got to start something that is virtually based, because I can't deal with this brutal hard work of picking up heavy ladders and climbing to third stories and cleaning windows and like every bone in my body aching at the end of every day. So at which point my first introduction to virtual business is actually had a very modest little like a little sweatshirt business on the internet for a few years. That was in my second and third and fourth years of university. But at that point, I was really glad that I figured out how to sell things on the internet. But the problem was I didn't have a skill. I didn't have like a solid skill set. So what happened was I had this business, and it was great because in contrast to all of that hard work I did my first year, the next 2.5 years were like a breeze. I had disposable income, and I would wake up and I'd see, oh, I made money in my account today. And look at how wonderful this is. And that was my life. But I didn't have the skill to maintain that. So that business dried up. And that was very frustrating for me. I spent a long time trying to figure out how to do that. So out of university, when I was leaving university, I was like, okay, I'm going to hit the books and learn this business thing from scratch. So this is how I started. This is where I got to wanting to be a copywriter. Okay. Right? Because in my mind, copywriting is a very or internet business has very specific skill sets about it, and copywriting is one of the key things. So that's how I got into it. So I'm going to stop there if you want to interject.
So you clearly have this work ethic that will get you out of bed and knocking on doors in Canada in January, right? Yeah. And now you've kind of transitioned it into this career that we're going to talk about in just a second. What was even before all that, what was your childhood like? Before that, and how did you have create this work ethic? Like, what did your parents do? I know where you're from, but where are you from?
Okay, so to give you a little bit more information about who I am and what I'm doing. I'm in the Caribbean right now. I'm in St. Lucia. That's actually where I was born, where I grew up for the first 13 years of my life. So the first half of my life, this is where I'm. So I'm back here again for the first time in like 13 years, like for the first time in a living capacity, right? And so I decided to come back for a while and have some fun here. I took my job down with me, which was very cool, by the way, because earning a North American income is like you take it for granted because you're there. Right. But if you want to go see all these beautiful far parts of the world, you can't go get a job. You can't go get a job there. The money isn't what it is in North America. But anyway, that's the side story. So anyway, as a child,
go ahead. As a child, my mother worked in a bank here in St. Lucia, and my father was an accountant in a hotel. So nothing like fancy, anything like that. I think I started getting my desire to want to have a business from watching my father work all the time. Work crazy hours for a guy he was making very rich. Like the guy owns a few hotels, and I look at this guy and I'm like, wow, this guy's right? And so that's where that started. And for my mother, my mother just kind of trying to keep her job for most of her career involved intense study, always trying to get the next qualification in the bank. Right. So I remember an easy, solid 10-year period of my childhood where she'd be up at 4 a.m. every morning studying for studying for the next thing, right? And so eventually that kind of rubbed off on me a little bit, where I'd be in like 7th grade. I felt the need I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to study. I don't know what I was studying at the time, but I had a little bit of that. And for better or worse, I was one of the people who got good grades in school or whatever for a time. So yeah. So your mom's a hard worker. Your dad was a hard worker, but it sounds like you kind of saw them and saw specifically with your dad that your dad was making this guy who's already rich even richer.
Yeah.
And so you took the entrepreneurial path, which is awesome, kind of like me. Let's transition now. Actually, first, before we get there, you're talking about making a North American income and living in St. Lucia. Can you flip the computer around for like 10 seconds and show us what you're looking at so that people can get an idea of kind of your lifestyle that you've made now?
Yeah. Yes. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of stress for the folks at home is basically that, I'm not here to be like I make a ton of money. My income is relatively normal compared to what I might have in another professional job at this current point in my life, at least. But there's a lot of benefits that come with my work. So right now, I stand up right now on my balcony, and this is my view. I can give you a better view here. This is what I can see. Kind of the mountainside.
That's awesome. Yeah, hold it right there. Yeah, that's really cool.
Little drop of blue ocean over there. And
nice.
There actually, if you see this little, I can't see it. It's a little mountain thingy. I'm going straight to. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it out there in the distance.
That's where I'm heading right after this call to go to the beach. But
cool.
But so that's where I am, and I earn this North American income, I guess. But So kind of down here, I live a bit like maybe a prince, maybe a duke. I live like not a king. But,
hey, Duke isn't bad. It's better. Beats a cubicle.
Yeah. So I'm basically sitting at my office desk. I sit here as long as it's not like raining. I'll be out here working, and I really enjoy the lifestyle because I'm here for a few months, going to go to the States for a few months in a few months. And then maybe I'm really dreaming of going to Colombia afterwards. So I think that's where I want to go maybe a year from today. Maybe that's where I'll be, you know what I'm saying? So
we'll have to have a conversation about that because I lived in Colombia for a month last year.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. So Anton, your story kind of mirrors mine in the sense that I had the corporate job. I had the 9 to 5, wear a suit and tie, go into an office, sit in a cubicle. And then when I started learning NLP, one of the things that I discovered was how important it is to find my values and what's important to me. And traveling and having the type of freedom that I wanted was top on the list. And so that's where I basically redesigned my life around my current business and using NLP to make money. You use NLP a bit differently, and I know you wouldn't call yourself an expert at NLP, but walk me through kind of how you got your start first learning NLP and where you use it in your business today.
Okay, so over the years I've picked up little teensy weensy pieces of NLP from various random, not necessarily reputable places on the internet, if you know what I mean. But so I've used. I've picked up a few things that I've used in one capacity or another for a few years. Let's say 5. To give a number, right? But I never had any sort of foundation. I never really had a skill set at NLP, and I don't consider myself to be particularly good at NLP. But there are some things from NLP that I think are quite fantastic, and I also think that. I got that foundation. I got a kind of a broad strokes understanding of the whole, the bigger picture, as well as some of the finer points from your course, the Rapid NLP course. So I think that was kind of where I really started to at least understand how the whole thing is intended to work. So are you asking me what are you going to ask me what are some things I've done so far, or how I'm using it currently, or
so you kind of started like me and like a lot of people. You heard about it in a book, you dabbled a little bit.
Yes,
you kind of went online. It's awesome that you had a solid foundation from the Learn NLP at Home course. What were some things that stood out for you in that, and how are you using those techniques in your current business?
Okay, so all right, so basically the first thing about NLP that I like is a lot of things I like about NLP are not necessarily the sexy tricks. Right. Because my problem with a lot of the sexy tricks is I'm not subtle. I'm not a subtle dude, and I'm clumsy. I've always been a little bit clumsy. So it's really hard for me to go and like do the sleight of hand thing, and then all of a sudden they like, whatever. It's not really for me. But what I really like about NLP, firstly, is a lot of the principles of NLP. The one I really dig the most is almost in your course. It's probably easily within the first few pages is the concept of living at cause versus living at effect. Okay, so that concept basically says, you could choose to see the world in two ways. That you are the one who causes you the one who creates the reality that you live in, or the universe kind of just does things to you, and you're just kind of a reed in the wind, and you're this victim that you're this victim always with an excuse, always with this sad pity party story, right? Now this is where this takes me into a little bit of one of those self-helpy, fuzzy notions that you might have heard of, but I think that NLP brings this into a light that I can resonate with, because the whole notion of being in control of your world puts you in a powerful place. Because in NLP we say, you can control what you're thinking, what's going on in your head, the images, the words, the feelings. Control those things, and you essentially have control over everything. Control those things and use them in the way that other people are using it to get the results they want. I guess that's the other part. You have to kind of model if you're controlling your thoughts and your what's going on in your head, and then using those thoughts in a way that if you want to be a millionaire and you go follow the footsteps precisely of how Bill Gates or whoever did it, you will get similar results. And that's kind of the principle, right? So I'm very, very, very big on very controlling what goes into my head. Okay, so you can use that on a more advanced level in NLP, where you might have maybe that section about the what was it, presuppositions, and you can use all the fancy stuff, right? But so I can't even articulate what the stuff is, right? You could use that fancy stuff, but on a basic level, right? Here's one basic level. It's like, I don't watch the news. I just don't watch the news, because the news it's just so depressing,
it's
right?
It's junk, yeah. I agree.
Feeding your mind with nonsense, right? And then that nonsense kind of hangs out there, and then it trickles into all the other things, and all of a sudden you're not effective, right? I call the news the glorified death announcements, because it's always someone got killed, someone got shot, someone dead, and just like, this is why. I mean, like, it's a fact of life. And then I'm just going to be upset about it and sad and afraid.
So that's a great point. It really goes to taking responsibility. I mean, you've done this in so many ways. You've taken responsibility, and you're at cause for where you live, who your clients are, how you get paid, when you get paid. You're surrounding what you wear at work, whether it's pajamas or a t-shirt, since you're dressing up.
Yeah.
Even to what kind of input you have going on in your mind. So that's I like the sexy NLP tricks, but that is a core foundation behind everything I do as well. So that's a great point. Anton, in your copywriting, and for those people that might not have heard of that term, it's basically salesmanship in print, right? It's writing the written word to direct people to take action, and in this case, buy a product. How have you used maybe some of what you've learned in the Learn NLP at Home course into your business specifically? You gave me a cool answer to that before.
So I can tell you about how I've used NLP to grow my business, and I can also tell you a little bit about how I've used NLP to in my craft of persuasion, right? So that's my craft is essentially persuasion. Let's
start with your craft first. How are you using NLP to influence people?
Okay, so basically, again, I'm a big fan of keeping things simple The fancy tricks, I'm sure with many, many years of practice, I'll have it down. But I think that it's very tiring and exhausting to be walking around with the magic thing, the thing in your back pocket that you're going to be like, wow, pow. And I think that's it's hard work. So in my writing, my job is to get someone to get emotionally stimulated enough and excited enough about something to want to buy it. Okay. And in NLP, you learn that everybody thinks in a series of different ways. Most people either think visually, auditorily, or kinesthetically. Kinesthetically being with their feelings, right? Mm-hmm. And you learn in the course that it's like they speak in the language that they think, right? So you could say, do you understand what I'm saying? And the person who's visual might say, I could see what you're saying. And if someone's auditory, they might say, I hear you. And then if someone is kinesthetic, like, I feel you. Right? So everybody thinks in different ways. And one of the things that you learn from NLP is if you communicate in the way that you think and you ignore all of these other modalities, that what you're doing is you're disconnecting with all these other people, you're probably losing 75% of all the people. Yeah. So one of the things that I do a lot, and this is one of the things I can definitely say is I use this in my day-to-day life with my careers. I'm always working to engage all of the different senses and modalities, right? So I'm actually just going to whip out a notepad real quick to see what I was saying in terms of some of those ideas there. Right, so a lot of the language, right? So if you think about the three main modalities of NLP, you have visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. I'm always trying to use language that makes people see the benefit of what they are getting, right? So like a simple example of that is most people write in a way that doesn't really make a clear picture of what it is they're getting. Right. So I try to write in a way that clarifies the picture like really well. That's kind of a big part of my job. Right. So one of the services that I provide is I help professionals make a good first impression on LinkedIn with their LinkedIn profiles. OK. And it actually took me a long time to figure out how to communicate that in words so that people would understand, and especially in a few words, right? And so a perfect example is when I first started that service, I used to say, I'm going to help you double your networking or your networking effectiveness, your networking power, right? And then I started to realize it's like, what does that say? That's not a visual communication. That's not auditory, and that's not kinesthetic. There is no impact in that because the person who thinks visually has no image when I say I'm going to help you double your power, your networking power, right? So I was like, okay, how can I make this a visual? How can I make this visual so they can see the benefit in their mind? So the slogan I came up with is, I help you make a jaw-dropping first impression on LinkedIn. So in that, I can actually, the person listening to that, they can actually see someone on the computer reading your profile. Right. And they're like, jaw drop ground, right? It's a visual image, right? Or sometimes I tell people, if I can say, look, your LinkedIn profile sucks, that's cool. But sometimes I say your LinkedIn profile is murdering your career. You can actually imagine that word murder conjures up all of these images in your mind, right? That it creates that emotion because it connects, right? So anytime I write, I try to write in a way that makes you see what I'm saying, and like there's an image that comes with it. So most people write in a very cloudy, vague, abstract way, and I try to make it visual as possible. That's one way. Another thing I try to do is get some of that the feeling in there, right? I don't know if that actually is the same thing as representational systems or not, but I'm always trying to write in a way that makes you actually feel what I'm saying, right? And the story I like to tell is how a copywriter once had the occasion early in my career to, he's like, at that point I was still struggling. I hadn't figured out my craft. So he's like, the thing about you're missing is it's not visual. It's not visceral enough. It's not visceral.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he told me the story about how, the headline for this piece he was working on was, it was a weight loss product. And it was a story about how this 6-year-old little girl crawls up into her mom's lap and then kind of grabs her belly fat and says, "Mommy, you're squishy." Right. And it's like any mom who can, or any person who experienced that would just be like, right? Like a stab, right? Because you can feel it, right? So I'm actually not sure if that's a pure NLP based thing, but that's one thing. Another thing that I do that has its place in NLP is always just objection handling. And objection handling for a product is really reframing.
Yeah.
It's reframing. In NLP, you call it reframing, right? So this is very powerful, and this is a tool that probably one of the more usable bits of advice that anyone listening can use. And it's literally just, giving someone a different perspective on what on their situation so that they see it differently, right? I once had in my window cleaning business, by the way, the guys who would sign you up for the window cleaning, they were like sharks, man. They were just like really good at convincing you to do something you really didn't want to do, right? So I have a friend who did the window cleaning business, and she was not successful. So the next year she didn't want to do it, but then her manager came into town, made her write down a list of like 50 objections, and they sat down for 2 hours, and he handled every single one after another, after another, after another. And then she had no more reasons not to say yes. So she said yes, and then she had another horrible year.
Oh
no. But basically, some of the ways I handle objections is like, hey, how long do you want to hold on to this problem? You say you can't do this, but what would it be like if you could do this? Right?
Yeah,
how great would your life be if you could do this?
Yeah.
Do you know someone in your exact situation who can do this? Because I have a list of testimonials here, people just like you who are doing this right now, right? Or an even better one is when you have like the example of someone who's like 10 times worse off than you and they're doing it, right? Like someone who's like, maybe you're selling a make money product, and which I generally stay away from those kinds of products. But if you have a make money product and you're an average normal person, actually who does this really effectively is Frank Kern. Frank Kern has this whole image of this idiot surfer dude, and it's a very subtle thing that he does, because he's like saying, "Oh, I made this $1 million in 24 hours, no problem." And then you look at him and he's like, "If that idiot can do it, so can I." Right. And then you do it, and you want to buy his product. So there's a few things that I do in my business. I hope that's enough, because I'm going to stop now. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. The really good point, because I get asked this a lot, which is, all right, so I'm learning NLP. Maybe someone's going through the Learn NLP at Home course, and they ask, all right, this is good information. Can I apply this to writing an email? Or can I apply this to text? And my answer is, well, yeah, of course, because the person on the other end is still going through those things in their head. They're still making pictures or making sounds or having a feeling. And so you bridge the gap between doing what I think most people think of with NLP, which is talking one-on-one, and being able to take that skill and apply it to the masses and sell to groups of people that you've never even met, by hitting on, by speaking to them visually or over text, visually getting them to have an emotional experience, to get them to feel something, and making sure you don't leave anybody out. So those are really good points. The ability to sell on a mass scale just takes NLP, and it gives you so much more leverage and value.
You know what? I want to throw a couple of random ideas, NLP tricks that anybody can use that I just thought of as you were talking.
Yeah.
One is basically, if you want to be an NLP master, I mean, I'm not, so maybe I shouldn't sell that. But if you want to be better at NLP, and I mean, like tonight or tomorrow, Monday morning when you get to work or whatever, and you want to immediately improve your effectiveness in any level, if you're writing an email, if you're writing a web page, if you're talking to your boss and you're trying to do something, if you want to easily incorporate some of the stuff that I was telling you about the visual, auditory, kinesthetic stuff, is just tell a story. That's it. Tell a story, right? That's probably the easiest way to incorporate NLP into anything, is because you want to engage someone by the senses. You want to engage someone with their hearing, their visual, their feeling. And when you tell a story, that the framework of the story almost does that automatically. So you're not trying to sit down and be like, did I use the visual language? Yes, I got the visual. No, you could just, if you told a story, what happens is people start seeing the story in their minds, right? So a lot of sales presentations start with a story. In fact, this isn't a sales presentation. This is just a regular thing, but it started with my story because you can see what I'm doing. You can imagine, and you can have the internal representations in your mind. So now I'm a real person to you because I went inside your brain and I created some internal representations that you believe and understand. Yeah. Right? So tell a story. And if you want to write a good email, you could tell a quick story. If you want to make a point, if you want to, if you have an agenda in a meeting and you want to make a point, and you're afraid that people, are going to meet you with opposition, you could actually tell a story that conveys your point. And if you tell a really powerful story, the nature of that story will sidestep all of their trouble. I have a story. I have a weight loss product that I'm working on right now. And I've actually had to fight the guy into submission because he's been like really paranoid about using it. But the story I tell is basically it's a true story about this guy who was like a nuclear war negotiator, and how he essentially prevented nuclear war in the state in his day. And he was in this experiment, and I'm telling this whole story about nuclear war, and it leads to weight loss, right? Because earlier in his life he was in a big weight loss experiment, and I'm telling the story, conveying all the benefits of my product, but it's in this it's like an espionage story. It's
like a spy thriller.
Yeah, so you're busy like seeing like nuclear mushroom clouds in your head, and you're seeing this story about this guy starving half to death and all this, and it's all like, it's a true story, but you're so engaged with the imagery of it, that you're not so focused, or you're not so resistant to the benefits that I'm telling you as well. I'm kind of telling you these benefits, but you're not as focused. So yeah, that's storytelling. I'll leave it at that.
The storytelling also, it's a great way to put people in a hypnotic state so that they are more suggestible to the benefits. And I know you're a great storyteller. Let's go. I know people are interested more in hearing about your LinkedIn work and your copywriting. Just so you know, right now you can go check out and get in touch with Anton by going to rapidnlp.com/Anton, which is ANTON. So rapidnlp.com/Anton, ANTON. And one of the services that you provide is it's kind of basically one of your introductory services, and that's going in and helping someone sell themselves, right? So I've had products that I've paid you to write and sell for. But everybody has a product, and that product is your profession, your career. Yes. Tell us a little bit more specifically about what someone could expect if they wanted to hire you to recraft their LinkedIn profile, for example.
Right. So I go on LinkedIn a couple years ago, and everybody say you got to get on LinkedIn. I'm getting on LinkedIn. I get there, and I look around, and I'm like, okay, wow, everybody's profile sucks. And I'm like, is this only me? Why? How come every time I start reading someone's profile, I'm slipping into a coma because I'm so bored, and they all sound exactly. They're like, you're like a chartered accountant, and you're like, you make $250,000 a year. Why are you telling me that bookkeeping is one of your specialties? I would hope that you could do bookkeeping at that level, right? Like, I would hope that Microsoft Excel was a skill that you know, like people are really, you know, all the things that they're good at, it's their second nature. So they're not aware of how amazing they are. And also everybody's trying to fit in on LinkedIn. So they're trying
so no one stands out.
And nobody stands out, right? So this is a service that in my mind, I kind of feel like I invented it because, you know, even compared to other LinkedIn profile services, the key thing that I do is I figure out what is the one thing that makes you better. Not makes you good, not makes you just like everyone else. What is the one thing that makes you better? And we start from there. And then we can add in some other things. We can work, you know, but what is the core of your value, right? So that's a big part of it. And a lot of people who get into that service all immediately realize how undercut they've been with what they've, you know, how they've been selling themselves short.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, that's great.
That's my service. I'll tell you all the details. I'll leave the details for when you get to the website, which is rapidnlp.com/Anton. Yeah. So as far as specifics, you guys can contact me through that website, and that's it.
So rapidnlp.com/Anton. Like we said, the LinkedIn service is something that you've been doing for a long time. And you also work with some high paying clients to do full on copywriting gigs. So if that's something that you're interested for your business or a venture that you're starting, you can get in touch with Anton through that as well.
If you have a product or service of any kind, then there's probably a chance that I can help you sell it in a way that gets people excited about it, gets people aroused about the idea of buying that product. And so if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, or if you represent a business of any kind, then we can also talk as well. So yeah.
Awesome. So I highly recommend Anton. I paid him personally to do writing for me. That's how good he is. So moving on, Anton, one of the things that you mentioned after going through the Learn NLP at Home course is that it affected, it made a positive impact on your business, how you run your business. So my question to you is, you know, if you could give advice to somebody that's just learning NLP, that is by far not an expert, and they're looking to grow their income or make money using NLP, what's the biggest piece of advice that you could give them?
Okay, I know what I'll tell you right here. So again, there's so much you can learn in NLP, right? That's the problem. It's daunting, and then you're like wading through the muck of all of these tips and techniques, and you can't really figure out what to do with it all, right? But if you're studying NLP, there's a pretty basic reason. That's because there's something you want to get, right? You have a goal, you want to get that goal, okay? And probably the one tip that gave me the biggest ROI myself in terms of increasing my income and whatever, that was essentially again, a very basic tip called, I think it was the well-formedness conditions of outcomes or something. It's basically how you set a goal properly, and there's actually 9 steps to it, right? I don't even remember the name of the thing, but you know, if you read any cheap self-help book, you're probably going to come across goal setting. But what I came across in the NLP course was on a whole different level. I was shocked because I never knew how to write a goal. And once I learned those 9 steps for writing the goal, I immediately, those 9 steps immediately made the goal easier to achieve. Okay. So, those 9 steps was basically like, I don't know if I should go through the specific 9 steps or if I should.
Let's not go through all 9 just because I think that might be a little daunting. Okay. What's some that you were missing that you threw in the step and that made the biggest difference for you?
Right. I can tell you. So basically, first, I had to get very specific about what I wanted. Right. Which, if you're a little bit more advanced or if you're a bit savvy about goal setting, you probably know that much, which fair enough, good for you. So I got real specific. I was like, all right, I want to make this much money this year. Okay. And just that alone changed everything for me, because then immediately I was like, all right, well then that means I need to charge this much. I need to avoid people who, I knew who I needed to avoid. I knew who I needed to reach out to.
Yeah.
I knew, I was like, once I knew that I absolutely needed to make this much, right? Before I was like, I want to make money. I would like to make more money, right? And I got a certain result from that.
Right.
And then after I was like, okay, I'm making this much this month. This is my target for the month, okay? And therefore, it was much easier for me to weed out who I don't want to work with that's going to waste my time, and then all of a sudden I didn't make what I wanted to make, or who I'm going to work with and get like make my target. One of the things that I really that actually set that specific outcome, took it to the next level for me in terms of making this a real goal. Once I was specific about my outcome, then I had to get specific about everything else. If I want to make XYZ this year, then I need to make XYZ this month. Then I need to make XYZ this day and this hour. So I'm actually very good, by the way. One of the things I like to do as a freelancer, so you go into the workforce, and everybody's pay is kind of fixed, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't really have to think about this, but if you're running a business, I think it's very important to know exactly what other people are making all the time and really be thinking about it. So I have it in my head. It's like, if you make $1 million a year, you charge $500 an hour, and that's it if you have a job. If you're a freelancer or a service provider, then it's probably more like $1,000 an hour to make $1 million a year, just because of expenses, blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. So it got me thinking really specifically in terms of this is what I need to do, and it got me thinking, well, if I need to charge these specific fees, then I need to be able to sell myself for this specific level, right? And so that was part of it. The other part of selling of the well-formedness conditions of an outcome, or something like that is what the technique is called. The other part of that I thought was pretty great was, it's like, okay, if you get this goal, then how do you know you got this goal? Because that's the thing, is like, you want this goal and you're busy chasing after this goal, and you can't tell if you're moving any closer, right? Like, if you've gone 1 inch closer to your goal, how do you know, right? It's like, if you get halfway there, you might know, but if you're veering off course by a few meters, how do you know? That was a big part that changed the game for me. So it's like, what am I going to see, hear, feel, experience when I get this goal? And that was a very big part for me. I was like, okay, well, my parents are going to be telling me how proud they are. My girlfriend is going to, she's going to, be like, how awesome, this is great. This is wonderful. I'm so happy. I'm proud of you, right? I'm going to be able to have disposable income to kind of blow on this, right? Mm-hmm. And so got me thinking, what am I going to see? Another thing I'm going to see is I actually visualize seeing the money in my account. That was another big thing, it's like, because now I prepped my mind for that. So the day when I saw the money in my account, I'm like, oh, I got it. I'm on the right track. And it kind of let me know, right? And there was another one that was really good. There was that. I know. I'm not a pro here. I'm just I just follow the directions. I actually don't do the stuff really well. Yeah. Some of it happened to have worked out pretty well. But getting really specific about it and saying, what's the evidence procedure? Or what is the thing that's going to let me know that I'm on track? And the thing that let me know that I was on track was, well, my bank account was getting bigger. And so anytime my bank account got smaller, for example, or anytime, that stuff happened. And then also letting me know that I'm on track. Well, when I mention how much money I made for the month or whoever, the people around me get all excited and tell me, oh, this is great. It's letting me know. It's giving me a little feedback loop so that I know I'm moving in the right direction. So this system that is in Tim's course, it essentially helped me to break a big goal down into a small one. Yeah. Like a very small.
Really,
right?
Really,
and that's kind of the thing. So it's like, you ask yourself, how are you going to be a millionaire someday, right? I won't count any chickens, but I'll say that, if you want to be a millionaire, then you need to know the baby steps to get there.
Absolutely.
You don't need to know the big, like the baby, what's the baby steps, right? And so that's why I was like, if I see I'm very good. I have, it's almost like a little hobby of like sniffing out how much money people are making because you need to know what's an hour of this person's time worth. If they make $25 million a year, what's an hour of this person's time? Well, it's actually probably like $12,500, but you see, but it's I think I made the point, so I'm going to stop there. That's my story.
Yeah, well, you've made a lot of good points, Anton. I'll just draw the viewers' attention. If you've liked a lot of the tips, because you went way above and beyond, gave a ton of tips about NLP and how you use it in your business, please click the share buttons. Tell your friends about this interview. Click the like button. Leave a comment. Leave a comment for me. Leave a comment for Anton. Anton, again, has brought in a bunch of good points. I really appreciate that. And Anton, one of the things that you mentioned with NLP is that it's such now a wide body of knowledge. It can be pretty easy to get lost along the way and to fall into, even like you said, some traps about not the best information, which is why what I've done is I boiled down some of my best tips, my best techniques for using NLP to make money and packaged it in a CD that I'm giving away for free. So if you're interested in using your knowledge of NLP, whether it's at an expert level or whether really you've just read a few books, but you enjoy the learning NLP and using some of the techniques or the foundational principles that Anton shared today, and you want to expand it and take that information and make money from it, then you're absolutely in luck. Because what I've done is I packaged that material into an easy to consume CD called the NLP Profit Blueprint CD. You can get it for free. There's a link on the page that you're at. Just go ahead and click that link. It'll take you to a page with more information on it. And we're going to send that to you for free. So it's easy to digest. It's easy to implement. And it's, again, my best tips, techniques, and strategies for taking information on NLP and making money from it. So you'll want to make sure to claim your NLP Profit Blueprint CD now, because we've printed up only a very limited supply, since those cost us a lot of money to print up. And you're going to want to make sure to get yours before they sell out. So go ahead and click the link on the page, get your copy of the NLP Profit Blueprint CD. Anton, anything else that you want to share with the viewer? Maybe something that you're looking forward to next on this journey that you're on? I mean, if I were you, I wouldn't mind sticking around the islands where you're at a little bit longer.
Yeah. Well, when you know where you're going, it's a matter of figuring out the directions, that's basically what that last tip I was telling you about boils down to, right? So I'm in a different place in my life in that I kind of know that I can get to where I'm going, right? And I'm basically moving in that direction. So I'm hanging out here in the Caribbean for a while. Towards the end of the year, I'm probably going to go to the States and do some heavy prospecting, heavy networking, have a little game plan for taking my business to the next level, because there's always a next level. And anytime you try to go to the next level, you got to do some things differently. Otherwise, you'll stay where you're at. So that's I have a new outcome now that I'm moving towards. So we started talking maybe 9 months ago. I met Tim, and my business has grown a little bit, steady growth since I met Tim, just from knowing the guy, really. But
that's cool, man.
I know, and so I have a whole new outcome that I'm heading towards, and it's the same exact principle that I just described early on with regards to my mindset and my attitude. So yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I couldn't recommend you hire for someone to work with. So, I mean, if you're looking to sell something, whether that's you in your career and you want to get input from Anton on how to take your career to the next level using LinkedIn and basically doing copywriting for LinkedIn, or if you have a product or service that you want to sell online, head on over to rapidnlp.com/Anton. You'll be able to get in touch with him and see how maybe the two of you can work together. Addition to that, pick up a copy of the NLP Profit Blueprint CD. I'm covering the expense of it. Just check out the link here on this page and we'll get that shipped out to you before they sell out. So go ahead and do that. And Anton, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you telling us about your journey and sharing all these tips and techniques that you picked up and how it's impacted your business. I really appreciate it.
Well, it was a pleasure, Tim.
Awesome. All right, that's it. Thank you.